yesterday, former President Trump's legal team filed a lawsuit asking a court to appoint a special master to supervise the documents seized from Mar-a-Lago. Here to weigh in is former Department of Defense Chief of Staff, former Deputy Assistant for National Security Counsel, and former National Security Prosecutor for the DOJ under the Obama administration, and author of The Plot Against the King, Kash Patel. Hey, man, great to see you again. You know, President Trump, he wants a special master to evaluate whether seized documents were properly taken before the politicized DOJ and FBI start rifling through them, right? But as it turns out, Biden has already authorized the FBI to dredge through boxes of documents that Trump already sent back earlier in the year. And all of this comes amid new reports from John Solomon that the Biden White House facilitated the DOJ and the FBI in their investigation of President Trump. Doesn't this indicate that Joe Biden, or at least his inner Obama circle, orchestrated and had foreknowledge of this raid?
Hey, Chris, it's great to be with you. And I think I said this on your show a few weeks ago when everybody called me a fool. I said there's no way on God's green earth that this White House did not know about the raid. I said whether or not President Biden was informed or not is irrelevant because he can't remember yesterday morning. But the fact is, when I was a national security prosecutor working high-level cases, we always informed the White House counsel's office. And lo and behold, thanks to great reporting by John Solomon and the like, we now see their own memorandum that the White House communicating to the Department of Defense, Justice, about this investigation, about executive privilege, about waivers of attorney-client privilege, and Joe Biden weighing in personally. So when are they going to start reporting that they have lied to the American people from the beginning about the White House's involvement in this politicized act of injustice?
Yep, they've lied to the American people again. Now, you can see the Mar-a-Lago raid timeline that, as you said, Solomon got this, and now Washington Post, CNN, everybody's jumping on. Trump fully cooperated with the National Records and Archives Association, and now we're told Biden called in the FBI to look at the first haul of these classified Trump documents. What do you think Joe Biden was looking for?
Any excuse to bash President Trump. Any excuse to make it so he never runs again, because Joe Biden knows, I mean, he's announced he's running, which I think is hilarious, but that's a topic of another day. They want President Trump to not announce his candidacy for president. And that's the end goal. And whether it's through some form of impeachment or some criminal charge or a fake news disinformation campaign by the radical left-wing mafia, then that's just as good to them. So he was just adding to that fraudulent reporting and fake effort to get President Trump from stop becoming the next president of the United States. And if this guy wasn't shut down by Russiagate, Jan 6, Ukraine 1, impeachment 2, Hunter Biden, the Hillary Clinton email scandal, Ukraine phone calls, then this certainly isn't going to stop him.
Well, praise God. I mean, the corruption, when the Democrats are taking over and turning over our institutions to be their own personal goon squads, that's a bit of a problem. A lot of conflicting information out there about presidential documents. What are they allowed to classify? What are they allowed to declassify? Whether or not they can have them in their private residence. Now, my understanding is a president can declassify anything he or she wishes. Set the record straight for us. What does the law say? Can former presidents have classified documents or declassified documents at their private residences?
Yeah, you put it simply. As the former deputy director of national intelligence, I know. A president, any sitting president, is the sole arbiter of classification authority. If he says it's declassified, it's declassified. Now, it's up for the bureaucrats involved to sort of lay out the procedure that comes after it, but that does not revoke the declassification status like President Trump issued sweeping declassifications. So when these guys are arguing procedure, these procedures don't apply to the office of the presidency of the United States. And oh, by the way, let's not forget, Bill Clinton took nuclear codes after he left the presidency and hid them in his sock drawer. And when the Department of Justice said, hey, you have them, but you don't have to turn them over because the Presidential Records Act applies to former presidents of the United States, they are correct in that assertion. And that same law should apply to President Trump, whether it's about classified documents or Presidential Records Act, because that is what they're talking about false prosecutions along the lines of classified information and Presidential Records Act information. I remind everybody how Clinton and Obama and Bush have been treated.
Somebody really wants to get a hold of you, by the way. I have one more question, then you can get to that, I promise. In his book that came out in December, Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, said, while Trump was pushing to declassify Russiagate documents so that the people knew exactly what had gone on courtesy of the Democrats in Congress, the DOJ was working to redact them up to the minute Joe Biden was sworn in. Now, this sounds like a DOJ cover-up. They're trying to cover their tracks of all the illegality. Now, look, I've been saying the DOJ needs to be ripped down and built right back up again because we need the Department of Justice. We need a functioning FBI. But Mike Pence disagrees with me. Liz Cheney disagrees with me. Adam Kinzinger disagrees with me. What do you say, Kash?
I don't really care about what Kinzinger and Cheney said since they perpetuated the biggest fraud in the United States Congress in modern history. As a former national security prosecutor and guy with the FBI and DOJ, yes, it needs reformation. And yes, I agree with you. We need it and it can be reformed. But more importantly, let's remember the role of the same corrupt gang of criminal thugs at the FBI and DOJ that ran Russiagate. All roads lead back to Russiagate. The reason they issued this raid is so the same counterintelligence division at the FBI run by the same goons from 6 years ago at DOJ can do what? Say there's an open investigation and not release the rest of the Russiagate docs. Devin Nunes and I, the chief investigator team from Russiagate, have always said, we only got 60% of the stuff out, Chris. 40% still remains. The documentation that shows even more corruption on FISA-gate than ever before, and they don't want the American people to see it.
Kash Patel, we do need to see it. We need to see how deep the corruption goes, and people need to go to jail for what they've done. Sir, thank you very much. Appreciate the time.